On July 17, 2007, a tragedy unfolded in Brazil that would shake the aviation world.
Accelerate. Accelerate. It can.
TAM Airlines Flight 3054 crashed while trying to land at São Paulo's Congonhas Airport. This heartbreaking event took the lives of 199 people, marking it as one of the deadliest aviation disasters in Brazil's history. Let's dive into what happened that day and explore the mystery surrounding this disaster. TAM Flight 3054 was a Boeing 737-800, a popular model used by many airlines worldwide. It took off from Porto Alegre, a city in southern Brazil, with 186 passengers and crew on board. As the flight neared São Paulo, it faced major challenges. The weather had turned severe, with heavy rain making visibility low. Reports indicated that at the time of landing, visibility was under 1,500 meters, which is considered quite dangerous for landing. The decision to land in these conditions raised eyebrows. Pilots are trained to make safe decisions, but sometimes outside factors can create pressure. There's a belief in aviation that pilots always want to complete their flight schedules, but safety should always come first. The pressure to land on time, combined with an underestimation of the weather, can lead to risky decisions. In this case, it appears that the pilots felt they could handle the conditions, even though the weather was deteriorating quickly. Understanding the challenges of landing in poor weather is essential. When it rains heavily, the runway can become slick, making it difficult for planes to brake. Pilots must assess whether they can land safely or if they should divert to another airport. Unfortunately, in this instance, they chose to proceed with the landing, which would have dire consequences. As Flight 3054 approached the runway, it became clear that the situation was worsening. The plane was flying too fast and was unable to properly align for a safe landing. The wet runway made it extremely challenging to slow down. Statistics show that wet runways can reduce braking effectiveness by up to 30%, leading to higher risks of overshooting. This specific runway at Congonhas Airport is known for being short and difficult to land on under normal conditions, and the heavy rain exacerbated these issues. The pilots made a crucial error when they attempted to land on a runway that was slick and wet. As the plane touched down, it started to hydroplane, which means it lost contact with the runway surface. Hydroplaning occurs when a layer of water builds between the tires and the runway, making it impossible for the aircraft to brake effectively. When this happens, aircraft can travel much further than intended, and stopping becomes nearly impossible. As the plane careened off the runway, it crashed into a fuel tanker parked nearby and subsequently hit a building. The impact triggered a massive fire that engulfed both the aircraft and surrounding structures. Eyewitnesses reported flames and thick smoke, leading to a scene of chaos and confusion. In the aftermath, emergency responders faced overwhelming challenges as they worked to rescue survivors from the wreckage. The consequences of the crash were devastating. All 199 people on board lost their lives, marking it as one of Brazil's deadliest aviation disasters. The loss was not just a statistic. It impacted countless families and friends, leaving behind a community in mourning. After the crash, investigations revealed that the flight had encountered not just poor weather, but also issues like mechanical failures, which further complicated the landing process. The crash prompted widespread media coverage and discussions about aviation safety in Brazil. Many people began to question why the pilots attempted to land in such dangerous conditions. This incident led to calls for improved safety measures at Congonhas Airport and stricter regulations for pilots facing adverse weather. The Brazilian Aviation Authority launched a thorough investigation to analyze what went wrong and how similar tragedies could be prevented in the future. In response to the incident, significant changes were made in training and safety protocols for pilots in Brazil. The aim was to ensure that safety always takes precedence over schedules. The TAM Flight 3054 tragedy serves as a critical reminder of the importance of making safe decisions in aviation, especially in challenging conditions. It highlighted the need for continued education and training to prevent future disasters and protect lives. What went wrong? A lot of factors came together that day, contributing to this tragic incident. Pilot error was a significant factor in the crash of TAM Flight 3054. The decision to land in poor weather conditions drew heavy criticism from aviation experts and the public alike. Congonhas Airport is known for its challenging approach due to its short runway and complex layout, which requires pilots to have a solid understanding of the area. Unfortunately, the crew on Flight 3054 had limited experience landing at this specific airport. This lack of familiarity can lead to increased risk, especially in adverse conditions. Statistics show that human error accounts for around 70% of aviation accidents. In this case, the pilots may have underestimated the severity of the weather and overestimated their ability to handle it. This situation illustrates a crucial point. Experience is vital in aviation. Pilots must be trained not only in technical skills, but also in decision-making under pressure. Knowing when to divert or delay landing can mean the difference between safety and tragedy. The role of experience cannot be overstated. Pilots undergo rigorous training, but every airport has unique challenges. Congonhas, with its steep descent and short runway, requires additional skill and familiarity. When pilots face unfamiliar conditions, their decision-making can be compromised, leading to critical errors. In the case of Flight 3054, the lack of experience proved to be a fatal factor. The condition of the runway at the time of landing was another crucial issue that contributed to the disaster. The heavy rain had created a wet and slippery surface, which severely impacted the aircraft's braking ability. Studies indicate that wet runways can reduce braking effectiveness by as much as 30% or more. This means that aircraft can take significantly longer to stop, increasing the likelihood of overshooting the runway. When an aircraft hydroplanes, it loses traction with the runway. This phenomenon occurs when water builds up between the tires and the surface, creating a layer that prevents effective braking. As the plane landed on the soaked runway, it began to skid uncontrollably, leading to the catastrophic overshoot. The pilots likely did not anticipate the extent to which the wet conditions would affect their ability to stop. Proper runway maintenance and drainage systems are essential to mitigate these risks. However, even the best systems cannot fully eliminate the dangers posed by heavy rainfall. In the case of Congonhas Airport, the combination of a short runway and poor weather created a perfect storm for disaster. The challenges presented by runway conditions should always be taken seriously, emphasizing the need for pilots to assess landing conditions thoroughly before making critical decisions. Mechanical issues further complicated the situation for Flight 3054. The aircraft had one thrust reverser that was inoperative at the time of landing. Thrust reversers are crucial for slowing down a plane after it touches down. They work by redirecting the engine's thrust forward, which helps the aircraft decelerate more effectively. Without this critical component functioning, the pilots faced an uphill battle to stop on the slippery runway. In aviation, the performance of each system is closely monitored, and any malfunction can pose serious risks. The failure of a thrust reverser significantly impacts the stopping distance required for landing, especially on a wet runway. Reports from the investigation indicated that the plane required much longer to stop than anticipated due to this mechanical failure, which contributed to the overshoot. The loss of a thrust reverser is a serious issue that requires immediate attention. Pilots are trained to recognize and respond to mechanical failures, but when compounded by poor weather and other factors, the situation can quickly become dire. This incident underscores the importance of regular maintenance and inspections for aircraft systems to ensure that all components are functioning correctly before takeoff. In this case, a single malfunction played a significant role in the tragic outcome of the flight. Congonhas Airport had its own set of safety challenges that contributed to the severity of the incident. The airport is located in a densely populated area and has a shorter runway than many international airports. While it serves millions of passengers each year, the lack of extended runways and adequate safety barriers makes it particularly vulnerable to overshoot incidents. These features are critical for mitigating the consequences of accidents, as they can help contain an aircraft that has gone off course. Statistically, airports that incorporate safety measures such as engineered materials arrestor systems or longer safety areas experience fewer serious incidents. In the case of Congonhas, the absence of such infrastructure meant that when Flight 3054 overshot the runway, it had devastating consequences. The The aircraft collided with a fuel tanker and a building, leading to a catastrophic fire and the loss of many lives. In the aftermath of the crash, there were calls for improvements in safety infrastructure at Congonhas Airport. Enhancements such as extended runways and better safety barriers could help prevent future disasters. The tragedy highlighted the necessity for airports, especially those in challenging environments, to prioritize safety features that protect both passengers and surrounding communities. These improvements are vital for ensuring that aviation remains one of the safest modes of transportation. The crash led to an investigation that would change aviation safety protocols in Brazil forever. One of the biggest changes was in pilot training. The need for better training programs focusing on decision-making under adverse conditions became apparent. Congonhas Airport underwent renovations to improve runway safety features. This included better drainage systems and extended runways to help prevent future accidents. The crash of TAM Flight 3054 brought to light serious gaps in aviation safety regulations in Brazil. Following the incident, authorities recognized that merely having safety regulations is not enough. These rules must be actively enforced and adhered to. Investigations revealed that there were several lapses in oversight, particularly concerning the maintenance of aircraft and the training of pilots. For example, the inoperative thrust reverser on the Boeing 737-800 raised questions about how effectively mechanical issues are monitored and addressed in a timely manner. Statistics show that around 70% of aviation accidents involve human error or organizational failures related to safety protocols. This underscores the need for stricter enforcement of regulations, especially in high-risk environments like airports. In the aftermath of the crash, Brazilian aviation authorities began reviewing existing safety regulations, focusing on how to better ensure compliance among airlines and airport operators. By tightening oversight and holding organizations accountable, the goal was to minimize the chances of similar tragedies occurring in the future. To implement these changes, Brazil's Civil Aviation Agency initiated a series of reforms. These included more rigorous inspections of aircraft and a greater emphasis on pilot training, particularly regarding decision-making under adverse conditions. Additionally, regulations were updated to require airlines to maintain comprehensive records of aircraft maintenance and to perform regular checks on critical systems, such as thrust reversers. By enhancing the regulatory framework and ensuring that these rules are enforced, authorities aim to create a safer aviation environment for both passengers and crew. In the aftermath of the TAM Flight 3054 crash, a series of legal actions were initiated against several individuals, including former officials of Brazil's Civil Aviation Agency. These legal proceedings aimed to establish accountability for the regulatory failures that were believed to have contributed to the tragedy. The investigations focused on whether proper safety protocols were in place and whether the agency had adequately enforced regulations regarding airport operations and pilot training. In total, several civil lawsuits were filed by the families of victims, seeking justice and compensation for their loss. The legal actions highlighted the broader issue of accountability in aviation. Should individuals in positions of responsibility be held accountable for decisions made in high-pressure situations? Many argued that accountability is essential in aviation, as it ensures that all parties involved prioritize safety above all else. Holding individuals accountable can lead to improved safety practices, as it encourages authorities and agencies to act responsibly. The outcomes of these legal proceedings could set a precedent for future cases involving aviation disasters. They raised important questions about the role of regulatory bodies and the extent of their responsibilities. The crash prompted discussions around the need for stricter regulations in the aviation industry, emphasizing the importance of holding individuals accountable for failures that can lead to catastrophic outcomes. After the disaster, numerous individuals provided insights into what happened that fateful day.
The explosion spread fire throughout the entire area. There was a fire in the gas station, killing the people who were filling up their tanks, burning the whole structure, turning it unrecognizable.
Their perspectives helped paint a clearer picture of the chaos and tragedy that unfolded. Dr. Douglas Ferrari was one of the first medical professionals on the scene after the crash. He described the overwhelming chaos as he rushed to treat survivors amidst the flames. His account revealed the intense challenges faced by emergency responders. Dr. Ferrari noted that the heat from the fire was so severe that it made it nearly impossible to get to some of the victims in time. He expressed horror at witnessing the devastation and the sheer number of lives lost. His experience highlighted the critical need for effective emergency response systems during aviation disasters. In the days following the crash, Dr. Ferrari participated in community discussions about improving emergency preparedness. His insights emphasized the importance of training for medical personnel in disaster scenarios. The crash revealed gaps in the readiness of local emergency services to handle such large-scale incidents, prompting calls for better training and coordination among various agencies. His testimony underscored the human impact of the tragedy and the need for systemic changes to ensure that emergency responders are equipped to handle similar situations in the future. Dr. Ferrari's perspective also brought attention to the emotional toll that such disasters take on first responders. He noted that witnessing the aftermath of such a catastrophic event can lead to long-term psychological effects for those involved in rescue operations. The experience serves as a reminder of the need for mental health support for emergency personnel, who often deal with traumatic situations. Lieutenant Colonel Fernando Camaro was an investigator with Brazil's Aviation Safety Agency. He played a vital role in the investigation following the crash. Camaro discussed the numerous challenges that investigators faced, particularly due to the intense heat from the fire. This heat compromised crucial evidence, making it difficult to gather the data needed to determine the exact causes of the crash. He explained that the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder are key tools in aviation investigations, but they can be damaged in extreme conditions. In this case, the fire was so intense that it hindered the recovery of these critical devices. This limitation complicated the investigation, as much of the evidence relied on data from the flight's last moments. The difficulty in retrieving data emphasized the need for improved technology and materials that can withstand extreme temperatures during aviation incidents. Camaro's insights underscored the importance of thorough investigations in understanding the causes of aviation accidents. He highlighted that each crash provides valuable lessons for improving safety measures and regulations in the industry. Investigators use the findings from such tragedies to make recommendations that can prevent future incidents. His work in this case contributed to a broader understanding of the factors that led to the crash and reinforced the need for continuous improvement in aviation safety standards. Various aviation experts weighed in on the crash, analyzing the multiple factors that contributed to the tragedy. They pointed out that while the pilots followed standard operating procedures, the unique combination of weather conditions, runway issues, and mechanical failures created a situation that was nearly impossible to manage. This perspective reinforced the idea that aviation safety is multifaceted and requires attention to numerous details. Experts emphasize the importance of understanding how environmental factors can interact with mechanical systems. For instance, when it rains, the braking effectiveness of an aircraft can be severely compromised. Research shows that a wet runway can increase stopping distance by over 30%. Aviation analysts noted that the conditions on the day of the crash were particularly severe, and the aircraft's inability to stop highlighted the critical nature of runway safety. Furthermore, aviation experts called for increased focus on pilot training, especially regarding decision-making in adverse conditions. The crash of Flight 3054 became a case study in aviation safety discussions, leading to calls for improved training programs that equip pilots with the skills to evaluate conditions and make informed choices under pressure. Their assessments of the crash contributed to ongoing discussions about enhancing safety protocols within the industry, ensuring that lessons learned from past mistakes lead to meaningful changes for the future. The TAM Flight 3054 incident serves as a sobering reminder of the importance of rigorous safety standards in aviation. The discussions it sparked about improving air travel safety continue to resonate today. What does this mean for travelers today? Air travel is still one of the safest modes of transportation, but events like this remind everyone, pilots, crews, and passengers alike, that safety must always come first. In the end, the crash of TAM Flight 3054 was a complex tragedy, filled with human error, mechanical failures, and environmental challenges. While the aviation industry has learned valuable lessons, the memory of those lost that day remains a poignant reminder of the fragility of life. As discussions about aviation safety continue, one thing is clear: vigilance and commitment to safety are more important than ever. Thank you for joining in this exploration of the TAM Flight 3054 mystery. Stay safe and informed, and remember the importance of safety in every flight. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content.